and just took a big fat bot 4. So Salvi has to change things around, has to maybe find more consistent tempo-heavy openings like we've seen from Festival and Josue. That's a turtle, Nathan.
I know. A really cool, fancy board for anybody who wants to snatch that up before we head to TFT Monsters Attack. I mean, hashtag yeah, but also PB is out in like a week, man. So I'm really excited to wrap up LCQ, get some PB time, Cast Worlds, play more PB, get into TFT Summit. Like, it's a great time to be a TFT fan.
I wanted to make a joking comment there, but you just hyped it up so well.
I mean, what's not to love?
I feel hyped now.
I know. And here we go. Game number 4 is upon us. Let's hop on board with one of the players that has a lot of hype behind him. It's Brazil's Toddy, who is in an okay spot, 12 points in 5th place, but needs to make up ground specifically on players like Precedent and Josue Deleted, who are at 16 and tied for 2nd.
We have a few players here who really like playing Mirage, but this time it's Dawnbringers, not the hottest of variants, to actually try and go for a very strong game of Deja. Although for Namzi it will be Cannoneer. We saw Brix play it in the EMEA Finals, a comp that has been considered as a comp that's a little bit off meta, but can work out. You were talking about it before, Ferdinand. What's your take on Cannoneer overall right now?
I think it's okay. It's really high tempo. The best part about it is it's pretty cheap to roll for, because similar to Mage Namzi, you just kind of need Astrals and Namzi to get it online. You just kind of need cheap Cannoneers and Namzi to be able to stabilize and hit, you know, even 6 Cannoneer very quickly. The downside is it caps way lower than even the other Namzi variants, so you have to leverage that into like a top 3, a top 2 if you're able to preserve HP. You rarely go for the win.
And how much does Augments really influence that idea as well? You know, you just mentioned it caps out a little bit lower, but you know, I'd say the Silver Augment starting things off, I feel like that really opens up that opportunity.
And the pick here that I would expect for a consistent player, well, it's right there. Maybe not the best of Augments though, Ferdinand. What's your take?
Bruiser Heart! But yeah, it's consistency if you want that consistent streak. Ooh. But picks Item Grab Bag. Now, Item Grab Bag makes sense because it's high tempo.
Oh!
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. It's Candy or Namzi, and we just saw Soul Siphon.
The tech. This is something that we've heard whispers of in the past. We don't know exactly what the tech is. Rodan, have you heard anything about Soul Siphon? Because I know it's an augment that on the stat sheet, it looks god-awful. But some players in other regions have made it work in these regionals. What's the game plan with Soul Siphon?
So Soul Siphon is because it's a Candy or Namzi, so what you can do is sacrifice the Namzi itself, give your entire team Prodigy. And what that means is all of your units will basically get the attack speed if the Tristana dies. But the best part about it is the passive on Prodigy that gives you flat attack damage. So if any of your units are 3-star, it'll count as if the Namzi is 3-star, therefore all your units get the 3-star attack damage buff. It's a very niche corner case scenario, but here we are.
And this demonstrates that player research that we were talking about, and finding those niche comps and finding those opportunities. This is a big deal. You know, when you talk about Tech Summers outside of this, one of the things they highlighted is that they will take big risks. And this is one of those spots where you are looking like you need to take big risks. Right now, Brix is at 21 points. You're 6 points behind.
Not just that, but we talk about Namzi being the star of the show here. Who is the pocket pick Namzi Evoker player who already played Namzi Mage today? Namzi is Tech Summers. I think that's his hidden identity. And if he can make this work, he will be the Namzi specialist going into World Champs if he's able to make that.
I love that. I love that. He called out Evoker Namzi being underrated. A lot of players are sleeping on it. Also has played Mage Namzi. Now looks like to be angling for that Candy or Namzi. Going to try to go for that, that Zeke's Herald as soon as possible.
For any viewers who don't quite know, we have a little augment card to show us what exactly Soul Siphon does, because as Ferdinand mentioned, it's not picked very often, especially not in the competitive setting. Dark Flights will benefit from the topmost trait of the Sacrifice unit. This is why the Namzi works out. But as Ferdinand said, it's a very niche case. You have to have studied. And TFT, there's so much information. Some players just don't have the time to go down this route, but I think Tex has.
I mean, Tex, first of all, for some people who don't know, is also a Redditor. You might have seen him posting on the competitive TFT subreddit, and I know that this build was making its way around a lot of those forums. So Tex definitely is aware of it, so I want to give a little shout out to his community involvement, especially with the English-speaking side. Yes, he represents Latin and Argentina, but also fluent in English, from Texas, Hex Summers. So kind of representing a little bit of North and South America. And in proper NA fashion, if Tex Summers wins the World Championship, we count that for NA.
Whoa. That is not how that works at all.
That is a hot
That's
take.
entirely how it works in esports.
He
We gotta
was
win
born
something.
in Argentina. If Latam is able to win a championship, they're going to take it for themselves. Believe me.
Oh, we will share it. It's an honor. It's an America's victory. As we do see whether or not Tex Summers can take this fight and lose by as few units as possible. Going up against Josue Deleted, who has Pandora's Bench, which is one of the highest upside silver augments. Many people believe Pandora's Bench is just straight up broken in the correct hands.
The stats are not great. And as you mentioned, in the correct hands, players have to know how to navigate it, what comps to go for, and when to try and get those spikes with maybe a 2-cost reroll or a 3-star reroll. Yone could be a possibility. Kaisa as well, but we're coming into the first carousel of the game. Nathan, what speaks out to you?
The thing that speaks out to me right now is we got 3 players at 100 HP. And this is a big point in the lobby right now.
And what 3 players?
It's going to be Brix, it's going to be Prestivant, it's going to be Toddy. And Toddy just came off of a tough win, but these are the streak players inherently that are online. Brix, again, just consistent performances throughout the day, very high finishes. Prestivant plays for that tempo early on, always looking to find a streak.
At the very bottom, once more, Salvi, 82 HP, meaning that he's taken, what, 18 HP loss, 3 units per round. He's not being very competitive in some of these early game fights. Ooh. As we take a look at Salvi's spot, and it looks like he's going for this Kaisa. Has IE and JG already slammed the devastating combo, and we've seen Kaisa reroll able to win those lobbies. So let's see if Salvi can make a deep run for it.
And a big part of this, too, that I noticed is that Liquid's Kerm X had a Dragon Mancer opening here as well, and they also had Kaisa with a setup that looked pretty well for it. Jude Gauntlet already slammed on Kerm X's board.
Well, so Salvi does have a couple of different options. You could theoretically just carry this in the mid game and then transition to any AP carry that wants to utilize it. So we'll see.
We had a few mysteries solved already. Namzi's Cannoneer, Mirage's Dawnbringer, but now we know what the first Shimmer skill item is as well. Draven's Axe on the Wukong. Crushing Blow coming through, trying to do its best to win this fight. Kaisa still up though, and will she be able to do it against this Volibear and the Jade Statue? I think that will be the case. The crits coming through. The Volibear trying its best with the Relentless Storm, but not going to be quite enough. The Tidal Burst, too much damage. Ferdinand, what's your opinion on Draven's Axe as the first Shimmer skill item?
So I think Draven's Axe is really easy to be a trap if your spot doesn't support it. You need to have, one, obviously a unit that can capitalize off the raw attack damage and the attack speed to benefit from. But I think a lot of people have read these guides saying when you're playing Shimmer and Lagoon, if you hit Draven's Axe, it's like F tier. You don't want to play around it. It's really about shifting around your priorities. Maybe instead of playing like Kaisa Shimmer, maybe you play Rage Wing and Xayah as you're like, you could play a bunch of Swift Shots and transition to Xayah later on.
Toddy went to 6. Didn't just go to 6, went to 6 right away, too. What a prominent statement you're making when 2 players are battling for that streak, and then you face one of them!
That's right, going up against Prestivant, who's level 5, all 1-star board, which actually gives a hint of why Prestivant didn't level 1. Toddy is richer because he has a Lagoon stacking, and 2, Prestivant doesn't even have a unit to level for. He has a single Skarner while holding 20 gold, so if anything, it might have been very fortunate for Prestivant to even 4-streak in the first place, because quite frankly, his board looks a little fraudulent.
That being said, the Ezreal trying to do its best. Lilia might be taken down, but that's really going to be it. Lilia bursts in, the watch out hits, transfusion from the Vlad, still up and running thanks to that Thieves Glove slam off of the Augment, and that will be Prestivant's streak ending. Brix's streak also ended. Now only 1 remains going into Krugs.
Yeah, it's a really good call by Prestivant, I think, is knowing when to let go of that streak and understand, look, I want to be the one streaking, but I'm not willing to sacrifice so much in my game. And that shows growth, because in the past, Prestivant, even as most recently as the North American Regionals, a little bit too much on the tempo, not enough foresight into the late stage of the game.
Yeah, don't bite off more than you can chew is really the lesson there. And sometimes those simple basic outlooks provide a very deep insight into how the rest of your game goes.
Let's see what Lucas can do. Last game was very similar to this one. Lost most of Stage 2 playing Yone, stabilized, and then was able to try and fight for top 4, but just was left out with that 5th place position. We'll see if a similar game plan and similar game flow occurs for Lucas there. Some gold comes in for Taji, not quite enough to make it to that 30 gold threshold. Finds a Jason, finds a Nyla.
Oh.
Can he fit these on this board? Nyla, maybe?
I mean, Nila's the real MVP of a lot of Lagoon setups. And if that's what Toddy is going for, I would love to see it. I agree with the sentiment that I think Lagoon is actually quite strong. It's just that a lot of things have to go right. You have to have the Lagoon start. You have to have good items for it. You have to have a lot of HP. And I would say that the conditions do seem okay for it. But if you have 2 Thieves Gloves, that means you don't have 3 items ready to build for your Sohm.
But you might get a Prismatic Augment coming up, and it might be Lucky Gloves on the big stage. I will now channel all my Caster Blessing energy from him. And Nathan, please join me. Let's see this happen in this Game 4. Let's see. I mean, we're seeing Soul Siphon. What else do you guys want?
Soul Siphon, we're seeing Sohm. Oh, man. I feel like at this point, I've seen almost everything that we can expect from the standard parts of the meta. Is Tex, most importantly, needs to find that Namzi in order to stabilize. This could all be for naught. I've seen people roll and try to find that Namzi at the perfect setup, miss it, and then even if they do get it, they don't get the 3 stars going. So Tex is going to start feeling pressure right now because the comp isn't really online for quite some time.
Lucas down to 66. Tex down to 68. Salvi picks up a win here now. Bending that back a little bit. Josue deleted down to 82. And this is it. Mortdog does not, however, summon the big one.
It's not Bricks asking for a favor, so in that case, we see no Prismatic Augment here. Titanic Strength, Scope Weapons 1, and Ancient Archives are their pick. It could be a roll. Instead, these augments don't really lean too much into the current Lagoon setup for Taji.
Well, if it's Lagoon, you theoretically could take Ancient Archives and play around it. If it just said, get a Mage Emblem, would you take it? Maybe, but also at the same time, does Toddy even want to go for that? He opts out. Instead is offered Last Stand, Thrill the Hunt, and Better Together.
The first time we see Better Together, maybe not offered, but at least if it is picked here, picked, because we haven't seen it yet in 3 games, just surprising considered how often we saw it in EMEA Finals and NA Finals as well. Going to be Thrill the Hunt instead.
Players kind of tame on the rolling for this round, too. I saw 1 2-star pop up. That was it. Players are looking at level 7 here, and they're saying, you know what? Forget stage 3. I want to be strong enough.
Nice Shroud. Just able to get it out to the units that really matter here for this fight. Small things like that can help Toddy keep his streak, and that's the most important thing. I think that's why he picked Thrill. This Neela targeting down the Kai'Sa, able to snipe her, get that reset, and swing the entire fight. Not able to get it done. The Apotheosis, just not enough damage there. As Kai'Sa now able to get some free reign stacks. So Kurum X able to strike back. We talked about how Kurum needs to have a big game after that double 8th place finish off to the right foot. And remember, Kurum is contested on paper as Salvi is currently on a streak. We'll see who is able to get that momentum.
Early Shio Yu there for Taji, but Salvi now has a Kai'Sa online 2-star already. We saw that earlier on. Has the IE, maybe looking for some mana generation, but has the uplink as the augment, so maybe able to get those Lagoon stacks quicker and quicker.
Okay. Okay. You know, Salvi is also not close to Kai'Sa too. Looks like he is on the poorer side relative to someone who did lose streak a lot. Usually they'd be at 40, maybe even just half straight of 50 gold of interest. But he only has 1 Kai'Sa, so I think in Salvi's mind, he might have to consider a deviation of strategy.
I think it's hard not to consider a deviation of strategy here. You know that Kurum X is going to be committed to this side of things. You only have 1 Kai'Sa. You're sitting at 32 gold. To me, this spells out go to level 7 and build something else.
Especially with a win streak, you're going to be able to get some gold, stay relatively stable, get some good wins against Tex, who, as you mentioned, has to stabilize, has to find that Namzi to get things going with the Soul Siphon.
Yeah, the problem with Tex is that there's just a lot of things that have to go right. Tex doesn't have Zeeks, for example, to be able to get the attack speed going. Did have the Last Whisper. We'll see if he's able to get it going because right now he only has a Sword Sacrifice. But after this round, if Tex can get it, it could be huge.
Ooh,
Speaking of huge, utilizing the Lilia, Precevent able to be a little bit creative. The mid-game is where Precevent shines. He's showing you why that is.
It's important to find those stepping stones to the composition you want to take, regardless of whether or not it's a reroll idea or if you're just going to the next spot. You know, finding those spots that connected, that build that bridge, that is such a difficult thing to manage in a lot of these games.
Here's what Lucas's board looks like. Picked up a Pantheon with a chain, which could be very good for many AD-centric boards. If he's looking for some extra frontline, he has to stabilize. He has to find some way to get his board a little bit stronger going into halfway through stage 3, into stage 4. Hasn't had the best results this tournament up to now. Has to find a good game in this game 4. And yeah, looks like it's going to be, oh no, this is Precevent rather. Going to be, as you mentioned, playing those unusual mid-game carries. Not that Lilia's unusual, but more just slotting it into this board specifically.
Lucas found a 2-star Pantheon.
That's big.
That's really, really big, especially for 66 HP. But the HP count is closer than it would seem. Kurum, for example, 6th place, but what, 2 health points between top 4 and 6 at the moment?
It's the first 3 games we've been seeing like a canyon from first place to last, and this one it feels more like it's just cascading downwards. I think this one's a lot tighter than we've seen in the previous lobbies.
Precedent playing for board strength, as you mentioned, a player that likes staying healthy, has electro charge, and we see it now there. The Zeeks has been found for Tex. Is he able to turn it around? It's too little too late considering his HP is already down to 48.
You know, it doesn't seem like Tex has a lot of Zeeks either. So, again, that's another thing that needs to go well. You need to have kind of the double Aphelios, the double Rel, just stacking all of that AD. And as a result, it doesn't look like Tex is able to stabilize even just yet. How much HP will Tex drop before he can make that charge for top 4? He doesn't have much breathing room.
Rakan holding the fort here very well, giving that Kai'Sa plenty of time to tear that down. Salvi still on a big streak.
Looking at Josue, was also level 6 at 20 gold. So he's been rolling extensively for his current board state.
Whoa.
Interesting shop here.
Whoa.
Yeah, well.
What on earth do you do here? Like, my mind is racing 1,000,000 miles an hour in possibilities. Is this a risk that you have to take at this point?
I mean, being very honest, I don't even know exactly what other build you can go for outside of Seraphine from Josue Deleted or Josue Deleted's perspective. Like, what else can you really play? The Zeke slams, like that. I think that's the only thing we can do, and we're so broke. We're hoping that Pandora's Bench can help us hit, but we're nowhere close to it.
Against Tex Summers, you mentioned the lack of Zeeks, stacking up a little bit more, but goodness, I am just so terrified for some of the players in this spot. They have to have big finishes, and the team just gets melted here. From Josue's perspective, Tex Summers finally start to piece together some wins. Is this the Namzi diff? Is this the Dark Flight diff with the extra Zeeks?
No, it's a deleted board sucks diff. This is a terrible Jade board. Like, look, he lost 4 out of 5 on this stage, 3 in a row. That's not surprising in the slightest. And I think based off the trend, I think Deleted is in for a couple more losses in stage 4 at least.
And not able to stall really enough to get the Ascension kicking in as well. Someone that is actually stalling out, stabilizing is Salvi. Someone that needed it as well. Yeah, the full cell comes through. We have the Seraphine Graves set up right now, trying to econ back up to 50. Has to find a way to go 7 and then maybe start ruling for that Graves. The big question is he contested? Are other players trying to go into this direction? I don't think we've seen that just yet, but players might pivot, especially players like, well, not Kermax because he has a Dragon Mancer's pretty set in stone after picking up that Dragon Mancer conference in stage 2.
You know, that is a pretty big deal to point out here as well. The players that we've seen go after that typically is Kermax and Prestovent. And so right now, I'm starting to think about it. I don't think we have seen anybody else going after this. This might just be purely open to the taking.
Needs to buy all the 4 costs, see if he can find a way to transform them.
No Graves.
He's looking for a single Graves to potentially stabilize. He does have a Jace in there in the meantime, but without Graves, this is going to get ugly real quick. And not to mention, you're already low eco because of Pandora's. How do you hold these units on the bench to go for Pandora's? He's 2-starring all the units that aren't important, quite frankly. He's 2-starring Lee Sin, he's 2-starring Silas, and those are placeholders. He has to 3-item the Lee Sin.
Missed the Shroud.
Going up against Lucas, who has a 2-star Pantheon, as you mentioned, and about to get a potential injection of gold through this Draven's Axe. Can this Lee Sin perhaps shut us up and show us that this was totally fine as an item holder? Ascension does kick in, but I just don't think the Dragon's Tempest is dealing enough damage by itself. But it could be the sum of parts. Part of the strength of the composition is that there's so many people contributing, so it's a real team effort. And Lee Sin holding long enough makes it a reasonably competitive fight. That could have gotten way worse for Deleted, but it's about to get much harder because we're about to hit the 4-2 augment.
And we saw the investor on the back line not able to trigger. A Prismatic gets offered.
It's definitely not Verdunville.
Instant reroll. Wasn't even looking at other things like they had Evoker Crown, but I don't really think it is viable. But that Graves is a very big pickup.
I'm really surprised to not see these 4s get bought and stuck onto the bench here to turn into a Graves. This is very surprising to me.
He doesn't have many options. That's part of the reason why he rolled down that way. Let's check in with Briggs, who went for Ancient Archives 2, trying to find an emblem that can be sacrificed, plus an emblem that would be relevant onto the board. Just picks Jade. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you pick at that point. What was the second emblem picked up? Oh, it's on the bench.
Yeah, still waiting.
So he's waiting for 1. Fascinating.
And Brix is not where he's used to. He's now at 60 HP. It's not the comfortable spot he tends to be in with a huge win streak start in stages 2 and 3. We'll see if Rengar can do it. Just a consistent result here. The Graves is going to be the big one. Rengar has not jumped onto the Graves just yet. One Rengar taken down. Darkflight Ensis currently ticking, stacking onto all of the remaining units, but still this board is a little bit too weak against this fully itemized Graves with Ascension kicking in as well. It's a guaranteed win here for the Graves with the quick draw.
There's just no secondary damage source. All these units are meant to sacrifice for one carry, and that carry died as the first unit. It was a Rengar that jumped into Graves. So if anything, it goes the opposite. Brix actually has a recipe to potentially win fights, but he might have to consider sacrificing things like the Aphelios first. You see a lot of people put Aphelios, both of them, in the front line, Rel in the front line, Swain in the back line. Swain appears in the shop, and that's exactly what Brix needed to potentially snap this losing streak.
6 Darkflight is now online.
Wow.
Other players that are online, Salvi and Kurum. We now see the second Ancient Archive. The Tome of Trait comes through.
Wait a second.
So unfortunate. Because he had the Jade emblem onto a unit, Jade was back in the pool, and I could tell immediately what Brix was going for. He was hoping to manipulate Tome to get 2 Darkflight emblems and go 8 Darkflight as a way to be stable and play for that top 3, top 2. But that's not happening. What is going on here instead?
Kurum X has hit his Kai'Sa 3. 2 items on her for now. Has a champion duplicator on the bench as well. But looks like he's maybe strong enough for now. As long as this Kai'Sa can survive the attack from the Rengar, the Unseen Predator is enough to kill the Kai'Sa. No more damage left. The Zac is here, though. Kills off the Rengar. Can the Swain do it all by himself or with the help of Aphelios? I'm not entirely sure. It's a Swain 1 with no items other than Cavalier Emblem. It's going to be a slow fight as these tanks duke it out. The Zac trying his best. Almost 3 items. The recent buff may be going to be crucial here at trying to win this fight. But no, I think Aphelios and Swain can do it. The last bit of damage comes through. Aphelios will get the kill here, as will Swain with the Dragon Master's Decree. Kurum X takes a hit, and Brix finally stabilizes in stage 4.
Yeah, no anti-heal to stop the Swain from infinitely healing. That is something that's noticeably missing from Kurum's board. Don't be surprised to see him go for that belt if it's available to him.
Kurum holding a lot of items in place right now, really hunting down that Infinity Edge to highlight what that Kai'Sa can do.
Oh, that's a good point. He still has 2-item Kai'Sa. That also could have been a big difference maker as well. As we take a look at what the rest of the people are picking up here on the carousel, whether or not Pressman can keep with that streak. Lucas currently in second, hot off that streak. So we do take a look at what seems to be Lucas's board to see if he can continue that momentum, as he has 5 Shimmer Scale and quite an unusual board setup. Lucas known to play some flexible mid games. This game's no exception.
Not just that, but Prismatic Augment was the 3rd choice at 4-2. We're seeing them now on the screen. Dragon Soul for Lucas can reach a very high cap, but a very unusual pick here from Salvi. Verdant Veil, an augment that, in terms of stats, is considered, well, pretty terrible, is actually picked up in a game where Salvi has to find a good result.
It's a good shout. Will he be the madman, or will he be the one that's getting memed on for picking things like Verdant Veil? And I just think it's just hard, because you know Salvi is there technically. He's one of the strongest players. Can he keep up that momentum as we focus back in on this fight? Lucas trying to see if he can get to the Kai'Sa, but the Kai'Sa 3 will not be denied. And it seems like Kurum X is going to have to pick up another victory while he just hit 8. Now the question for Kurum is, looks like he's going to be really stable. Does he keep rolling at 8 as we saw last game with host weight deleted, or is he going to try to push 9 and do some other crazy stuff? I've heard a lot of opinions on both ways. Anybody want to answer this?
There's 2 ways that I want to look at this right now, which is number 1, Kurum X needs some big finishes in this one, so I start to lean towards the 9. But to contrast that, Kurum is a lot more selective about his going to 9 on levels. At the NA Regionals, we saw him do it about 2/3 as much as the other players were going to level 9. That is very conservative in that approach.
It's true. And the argument, of course, is what makes Kai'Sa the strongest, but what can you balance your board? Going to 9, the advantage of it is you get to play Yasuo 2. And we saw it in game number 1, right? Going to that 9 for that Yasuo 2 was able to give Brix that giant spurt of power spike in order to get to that top 2. Is that what Kurum X is thinking as well?
He has a board strength with the combat augment coming in, Battle Mage 3, a lot of extra AP. He has a champion duplicator though as well. That could change a different variable in terms of going 9 or staying on 8.
True.
We're seeing the fight coming through here. The front line Kai'Sa has a much better Radius to hit those backline carries, the Zeri taken down, the Zyra taken down. It's all up to the Graves now. Recently 2-starred by Josue. Can this Graves 1v3? The answer, unfortunately for any Peruvian and South American fans, is no.
Kermax is coming back with a vengeance, pushing Josue deleted down bot 2. It's LatAm 7-8 right now. Tech Summers takes another loss, and here is where Tech can really mess you up if you're Tex. Because, yes, he does have the ideal setup, but his HP count is very low. And also, people are contesting units that he wants to play, like Bricks, for example, finding this Starflight.
Radiance coming in on this Treasure Dragon as well. Tex has to find the right item, but what is the right item? What does Tex need right now for him to really try and find his way back into this game?
Oh, so the thing is, he's playing the 6 Cannoneer version, which means that not all the Dark Flights. So it basically just comes down to Aphelios gain the attack damage. I personally think that he needs some carry items. It seems like he's got a lot of utility in the form of ZZ Rod and Blue Buff, but no actual way to scale that damage. So he has Infinity Edge as a way to put onto this Aphelios 3, and you can see that he's trying to put in the Dark Flight. So this explains entirely why Stage 4 was awkward. Tech Summer somehow was not finding any Dark Flight units because it was being snatched up by people like Bricks.
Maybe that will change now once he's able to get this 4 Cannoneer board instead. But overall, Tex has to make something change. He has no gold to work with, very little HP, especially considering what this lobby looks like. It's pretty even on the top end, but there's some players that are lagging behind at the bottom side here. Salvi being one of them.
Oh, man. 5 loss for Salvi, who also is bot 2. We missed that as deleted. Took a loss a little bit earlier. The Zephyr and the Shroud onto this Hecarim.
Zyra.
As Zyra stopping the Aphelios in the back line. But look at the AD shredding.
Wow.
This comp is finally cooking.
Where did that Graves go? He just got instantly deleted off of the board.
Hey, I see what you did there. And I thought my Tex pun was bad. Well played, sir. As we take a look at the
this is what I'm
rest of
having
the
to deal with
lobby,
on the desk.
Look at the HP counts, Nathan. 39 to 20 separates top 4 from 8th. It is very close. These next few fights are going to be pivotal. Can't help but notice, though, the North American players plus Toddy are sitting comfortably, but that could change in a couple of fights.
It definitely could. You know, we've been seeing things swing a lot as this lobby pans out. And again, it's kind of the way that the strength has panned out in this lobby. We started with silver, we went to gold, we ended with prismatic. The win streak players, I feel like, have a distinct advantage when the power plays out that way.
The Swain is in the shop, but not on the board just yet. You don't have the gold to buy it for here for Bricks, but he still has 39 HP to work with. Rengar up in the air, though. At least one of them. The second one on the side there with Zenith, or with the Infinity Edge, is going to be able to get a lot of damage on that backside, but Graves is the key target. You need to kill off this Graves before that quick draw. And that Rage Blade especially go and get out of control. Graves still left alive, takes out the tank, and now it's only the damage carries left alive. Can the Rengars do it? The Rengar brothers, one taken down, the second as well. Jeez. Graves able to keep Josue alive and relatively healthy in this lobby.
That Radiant Rage Blade just getting crazy amount of stacks and making it unkillable in the 1v9 scenario. Not to mention, Bricks doesn't have anti-attack damage tech. Couple of hits coming everybody's way. Lucas
he rolls.
Looks like it's much more stable as he's going for this level 9, trying to find the 6 Dragon board that got online. He has Dragon Soul. He needs to get 2 stars.
Oh, this
There's
is
a Terra.
This has got to be done properly, too. You have 8 seconds left. You have fully stacked bench. You have to get these items parsed out. Had to equip some items in order to unlock the rest of the ones. The Champion Duplicator. This feels like a real board all of a sudden.
It is, but there is a comp that can snipe things like this Aurelion, so without defensive items, it's 2 Rengars jumping in, but there's a Bramble Fish, Shyvana intercepting it. Not sure if that was intentional or a miraculous turn of events, but the Aso gets one more black hole, but just can't kill it off, and now the scaling will continue. This was the nightmare scenario and matchup for Lucas. Can he live and get one more shot at a 6 Dragon board? Otherwise, this could be one of his last lives in this lobby.
Shyvana might do it. The Bramble Vest is massive. We saw the desperation Titans resolve onto the Aso, trying to keep it alive for a little bit longer. Swain versus the world. One dragon versus many. The Dragon Master's Decree seems to be enough. The Cavalier Emblem is massive as well. The Archangel is stacking so much damage coming through. Bricks
Holy smokes.
Stays alive. Lucas down to 6 HP. And Salvi accompanies him also at 6.
Wait a second. You're telling me you're playing a 6 Dragon board and an all Dragon character shows up? Lucas was not paired up, I think, on anything else. It was just his Aurelion Soul. What does he go for here?
We saw the Dragon Mancer emblem as well, maybe for Kurum, sitting at 44 HP.
Kurum, we just saw 2-star, a lot of stuff coming into this as well. I feel like Lucas had a number of different options here to really go in a bunch of different directions, but ultimately everyone playing out with something that they want in this spot.
The Shroud is big in the late game as well.
How much time do you have?
For Josue. We'll see what this fight looks like. We know, of course, Six Dragon was nerfed from 40 stats to absolutely everything to 30. It used to be a comp that once you assemble, especially 2-star, really it was not going to lose. Now there are ways to do it. There are boards you can assemble to try and get a good fight. Soraka 2 in the shop for Lucas. Doesn't fit.
This is a board that could hard stabilize, though. If we can hit those 2-stars, this comp can win out. And we've seen it done a handful of times. But Lucas does not have that recipe for success. He switches at the last second to the right side, greeting the Terra Monolith value. Going up against Precedent, who's tried and true. And the positioning for Siphon can charge directly onto that Aurelion Soul because of the Rampage angle. Goes to the left side, though. That is a moment of reprieve. And that should potentially swing the matchup. Excellent Thieves Gloves items again. The Morellonomicon able to amplify that Dragon's Descent. And now you see the 6 Dragons starting to pressure the rest of the lobby. Precedent, who looked good, 3rd in HP just 2 rounds ago. Now 18 HP. But the sad story, Salvi is out in 8th place. And with that, his hopes of making the Dragonlance Championship.
Tex Summers hits a Graves #2. Sway deleted needs a big outcome here, but I have no idea how you get to that point from this spot. You mentioned the Prestament board as well, just not really able to fully flesh out that board. And with how much power has been spiking right now, this is not the time to be missing.
I mean, Tex Summers, look out, by the way, streaking. Rengar 3 for Bricks. Everyone's getting none in this lobby. Had to sell a part of his board in order to get it. Won't be getting Darkflight Essence on 2 of his units.
Soam's in trouble.
Is the Darkflight Essence even worth it at this point? The protection of the Lagoon Soam in the back corner. Toadi's trying to rack up those stacks with a Tide Blossom burst. Will that be enough? The Rengar's not coming to the back line. Here comes the second wave of casts. Is it going to be enough? It does. And it now isolates just Swain, having to take on 6 units. And I don't think the Kree is going to be good enough. Will Lucas, or rather, will Bricks be able to survive the amount of damage coming his way? There's 6 units available.
No.
Oh my
Bricks
gosh.
is dead, and so is deleted.
Finally, Bricks gets a bot for, unfortunately for any fans of EMEA and of North Africa, not North America, actually. But we're seeing here Taji, who said, the comp I will default to in the LCQ is going to be Lagoon Soam. We finally see it in Game 4. And he's very, very close to hitting the 3-star Soam win condition.
You're 1 away, and you have 63 gold. It doesn't even feel like you're away from the Soam 3 at that point.
So it comes down to who can
Nyla
contest it. He's going for Nyla 3 at the same time. I also like this heads-up play, taking out Nyla because he wants to rack more Lagoon stacks by weakening his board. If he put Nyla in, he would have more assassin damage. So it's a really nice call-out. Toadi is playing lights out, at least from what we can tell right now. Is there anybody that can contest him for that 2nd place?
I don't think so. I mean, right now, this is looking so incredibly strong. It looks like a deja vu from Game 2, where he was able to assemble so much gold, had such a dominating win. Looks like Solo Gasang's game to qualify to Day 3 of EMEA Finals, where he had so many 3-star 5 costs, it almost seemed like he was cheating.
Well, he's also not rolling, and this is kind of an interesting decision to be made. He is healthy. Kurum is in his pool, did hit Volibear 3.
See what the Shroud hits.
It's Lucas on the other side.
Lucas
Shroud
just hit
hits
Shyvana.
everything. That is money.
We'll see now where this fight goes. It's Soam, a single dragon against so many. The full 6 dragon is for Lucas. He was 6 HP. He's trying to stay stable. No Soraka to heal him up. If he loses one fight, it's over for him. He needs to try and find a top 4 position. The Soam is almost taken down by Zippy, but heals back up. The burst damage will come out. Now Tide Blossom trying to do it, but not quite enough. Toji lets his Brazilian compatriot stay alive in this game, secures the top 4, and Prestevent takes a 5th.
We just hit a Shyvana 2 for Lucas in that one too. How crucial is it coming into that fight?
Soam skipped the Nyla. He's going only for the Soam now.
Oh, I don't know if that was intentional. I think that it's in his interest because, you know, at this point, you can even play for the champion duplicator at 400.
Yeah.
I mean, so basically in 23 stacks, he guarantees Soam 3s, whether or not you want to play for that Nyla 3. So I think missing that was a big mistake.
That's crucial. Lucas hits Terra 2. He needs to find the upgrades.
We're going to need all hands on deck. We move the Shroud to the right side, but it misses the Kai'Sa. Not necessarily that important in this matchup, though, because she has such a low mana pool. Let's see if we can get this done. A good angle for the TIE boss is potentially hit at the bottom right corner angle. Kai'Sa trying to work onto the front line. A big sweeping blade from Yasuo, able to toss everything up. But it looks like the Sohm is still going uncontested. It'll come down to the battle of the carries. Another sweeping blade stunning, and that might be able to swing things from Kermex. It's the AP carries mano y mano.
It's called Tidal Burst for a reason. The Kai'Sa gets the kill, and Sohm in big trouble. Tex Summers for a 4th game gets a 4th place. Someone told him, Tex, listen, you have to be consistent. He's like, okay, I'll be consistent. This is never before. I think I've never seen this before.
Hey.
If he's able to get a first in the last 2 games somewhere, I think that puts him in a good spot.
He's set up very nicely to have a top 2 finish. You
One
just
away
need
from
to do
both.
strong finishes. And yeah, 1 away from both here. Sells a Sohm! Sells 2 Soms!
He's getting desperate. He
Wait
thinks he
a
might.
Sells 3 Soms!
No. Oh, he gets a Neela 3. Okay, if he missed, it would not have been worth it. But he was 1 round away from going for Somm 3 as well because of the duplicator that comes in. What's he going to do with that dupe? Almost nothing, but we'll talk about that in a second as Kermex going up against Lucas. 2 streakers facing off. The Dragon's Ascent does find and stun the Kai'Sa temporarily. Here comes the Black Hole. It still has not ascended, but all the aggression is onto the Kai'Sa, and she's fending for herself. There's just no one else to protect, and the Ascension of the Dragons does way too much damage. Kermex takes big losses here, and is now potentially going to seconds. We find another Dragon Carousel on stage 6.
I
There's
feel
the last
like,
Sohm.
I feel like that Kurum has just been outscaled at this point. It's so surprising to see, but when you give players enough time and they have these compositions that just continue to build strength, it's going to happen. A 3-star 4 cost got hit. We saw the full Dragons board get 2-starred. How does Kurum recover?
Lucas might win, but Kurum might have enough HP to try and get that 2nd place position. We'll see it now. Lucas, a game that's reminiscent of Double 61 in the last day of EMEA Finals. He had 6 HP and came back to get a first. Kurum hits Lee Sin 3, hits the Zac 3 as well. I don't think it's enough, though.
It's a lot of 3 stars, but, you know, Lucas just made a Tactician's Crown because he picked that special off the carousel, able to squeeze in a Rakan. That is not inconsequential whatsoever.
The Shroud is big. Double Ice Cream Cone as well. One even a premium version for this Kai'Sa to try and do her thing frontline with the Battle Mage as well. But the Kai'Sa goes up into the air. That's not where she wants to be. The damage will come a little bit later. The Tidal Burst won't be as bursty as Kurum would have expected. The Neela 3 shredding through absolutely everything with that slipstream all over this board. Can the Kai'Sa get the kill where it matters most?
No.
The answer is no, and that might be the end for Kurum. It's going to be a big loss, but is it big enough? Not quite. 1 HP.
But Lucas picks up the win as well. I mean, it's hard for Lucas to get a stronger board right here. I look at this one, and, you know, I still have the question, is the Neela 3 enough to take this down? And frankly, after seeing that last fight, that was a decisive win.
It's a decisive win against a comp that's not designed to beat it. This is a comp that's designed to beat everything in the game. Lucas is the primary win share holder from these 3 players, but can Toddy, for example, get the Neela to jump onto the right target? Can he make sure that the position is lined up correctly? Goes for the bottom right corner, and we have a potential double kill onto our hands
Shroud
here.
and Zephyr.
The Zephyr does miss, doesn't get it onto the Aurelion Soul, into the most inconsequential unit. Neela is working onto Shyvana. Shyvana is not casting Dragon Ascent just yet. Great items, but now we're isolating the Aurelion Soul, and Neela 3 is going to be able to take it down while healing the back line.
Wow.
And Apotheosis follow up onto all the shielded units. Sohm is still not down either, and it comes down to a Neela potentially taking out 1 dragon at a time. And I think that he's able to do it.
Wow.
Lucas had the 6 dragons, but it won't be enough to go top 1 in this lobby.
Kurum won the fight as well. 2nd place for Kurum.
The Brazilian Capoeira coming in from the Nyla, able to get the win against Lucas. Maybe able to secure another win game 2. He was able to do it game 4 maybe as well. We were questioning the selling of the Sohms. Maybe he thought, hey, I'm in big trouble. If I win out here, if I get an island 3, that's enough to maybe win this lobby. It seems to be the case for now.
Excellent, excellent. I take back my words. The Neela looks like it's enough this lobby. I was worried with 6 dragons capping out that we'd want to go for both. We were in position for both, and Toddy able to making one of the hardest decisions we've seen today yet, and it's paid off. But job is not done. We've seen some miraculous stage 7 come from behind victories. Both players are at 1 life. Whoever wins this head-to-head is taking that first.
And Kurum X needs it the most. Back-to-back 8ths in games 2 and 3. Now finds himself in a spot where he's fighting for that first place, fighting for those 8 points. That might be the difference maker. This 1 point could be the crucial difference maker, and if he's able to bounce back in and try and fight for those top 2 positions.
How much does the positioning come in here as well? Second Zephyr found for Toddy. Shroud sitting on the bench with it. A lot of scammy feels can come in with this spot right now. Does he have the spot to do it?
Lands the Zephyr, able to position for that Kaisen once more. Kurum X has been outpositioned, has been outgunned, has been outplayed by Toddy. The Nila is working onto these units, staying away from the Kaisa, but Kaisa is just in the face of all these units. As Kaisa drops, wait, Som ends up dropping. Kaisa targeting the Nila. Nila still stalling on everything else. Working onto the Kaisa.
So close. Taji gets the win. Brazil on top for a second game in this tournament. And I'm honestly very impressed with what I'm seeing from Taji as a player. I think if he makes it to the championship stage, he'll do a very, very good job. What gameplay to make that a